Jaden Springer is no longer a Boston Celtic. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little more upset by it than I thought I was going to be at the middle of this season, but in breaking news fashion, Brad Stevens has sent Springer to the Houston Rockets in a not-so-surprising move. This was the only financially responsible option for Stevens to really cut back on that luxury tax line and possibly give the Rockets and maybe a draft pick or two here and there to try and bolster the Celtics' future. So we're going to break that down here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports, break down the trade details, and what else could Brad Stevens do ahead of the NBA trade deadline, which is exactly 24 hours away. But before we hop into the details, we are going to go live tomorrow. Hopefully, we need 25 new subscribers on this video alone to show us that we should go live tomorrow afternoon for the NBA trade deadline, even before we take on the Dallas Mavericks, which we, of course, will go live for. If you guys want a live show in the middle of the day, go on ahead, hit that sub button for me. Shams Charania, the new Woj, breaks the news here that the Boston Celtics are trading Jaden Springer and their 2030 second-round pick to the Houston Rockets. Both teams are also exchanging heavily protected second-rounders. So you might be looking at this trade and thinking the exact same thing that I'm thinking. What the hell is Boston getting in return except for exchange of a heavily protected second rounder? Basically, what Stevens is doing is he is dumping money. He is salary shedding. He is trying to cut the cost of the luxury tax bill because the Celtics are way over the second apron right now, and they need to clear up some cash. But what this also does for the Boston Celtics, they previously had one open roster spot heading into the NBA playoffs, but now they have two vacant roster spots because they did not go player for player with the Jaden Springer trade. So to really break down, Bobby Marks spoke on what a Springer trade means for the Celtics. In trading the $4 million expiring contract for Jaden Springer and a future second-round pick, they are not allowed to trade cash, would help alleviate their luxury tax penalty. The Celtics tax bill would decrease from $65.6 million to a whopping $50.5 million. So this is a huge cut to the luxury tax penalty, which our Celtics are fighting day in and day out, and that'll eventually will lead to punishments and draft picks. So now Brad Stevens making a trade with former Celtics head coach Ime Udoka and giving Springer to the Houston Rockets. Go on ahead and give me your one-word reaction to Jaden Springer trade. Mine's just going to say heartbroken. I really started to like Jaden Springer over the last couple of games and what he was able to showcase. He was a defensive spark off the bench, and I love that he could drain threes right off the bench like a Springer and like a Hauser, but ultimately, this does make the most sense. So comment your one-word reaction down below. The last 5 games, I know a lot of you guys have enjoyed Springer the way that I have. 5 points averaging over the last 5 games with a defensive rating. 102.4 is really where he stood out, especially going up against the Chicago Bulls. When he came off that bench, it was an immediate steal. It was an immediate block on Josh Giddey. He just knows how to create a havoc against offenses, and you see his three-point percentage right there, nearly 44% over the course of 5 games. But what Springer will now be able to bring to the Houston Rockets, I'm actually very excited for him. I think he'll fit in very well with the defensive strategies that Ime Udoka has implemented in Houston with a Dillon Brooks, with a Thompson. So to have Springer over there, I think this would be a good stepping stone for him moving forward. But can the Boston Celtics benefit even more from a Jaden Springer trade? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before I break down what this means for Boston, let me go ahead and tell you guys real quick about our sponsor, which is PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America. I play PrizePicks every single game day, and I want you guys to join me and 10 million active users. Super, super easy to play. All you guys have to do is just pick more or less. That's it. 50-50 shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash when you pick a player's projected stats for that evening's games. And knowing that we do still have one more football game for this season, we all know what game I'm talking about, the big one. They're giving you a free pick for Patrick Mahomes to have at least one passing yard. Have you ever seen Patty Mahomes play football? He's pretty good. And I know this is a 99.9% guaranteed win. So if you guys want to go on ahead, take this free pick, download the PrizePicks app, use promo code CLNS. This will give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Don't even need to win the lineup to get the $50. It's guaranteed. One more time, download the PrizePicks app, use promo code CLNS. This will give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Jaden Springer now being moved to the Rockets a day before the NBA trade deadline. I said this in the very beginning of this video. This was really the only move that made the most financial sense for the Celtics to cut back on that luxury tax apron. The Celtics have a lot of superstars on their roster, not to mention the two highest paid players in the NBA. They just extended Jrue Holiday, they just extended Derek White and Sam Hauser, and if they would like to keep Porzingis in Boston till the end of his career, that's going to be another chunk of change. So to have a Jaden Springer, who wasn't necessarily playing that much, and said before these last 5 games, was making well more money than any other Boston Celtic player coming off the bench. As you guys can see, Jaden Springer was the 8th highest paid player for the Celtics. He made more money than Neemias Queta, who has become a very good role player moving forward for the Boston Celtics. Luke Cornett, which we know now with KP's injuries and Al Horford not playing back-to-back, they really do rely on Luke Cornett minutes. Sam Hauser, who's in his final year before his extension starts, currently making $2 million. Xavier Tillman and the rookie Baylor Shireman. Springer was making more money than all of these players. And about Sam Hauser, Cornett, and Queta, I don't think Springer had carved out a role as important as those 3 players. So to break down even further what this money means, Boston moving Jaden Springer is opening an additional roster spot and reducing their tax bill. Roughly $15 million is actually saved by the Celtics in this move. Before signing a replacement player, Houston takes a flyer, assuming they keep Springer, and picks up an addition asset by renting out some room under the tax. So now, Brad Stevens gets to look at that open roster spot and possibly move a Tillman. Can possibly sign another player with the money that they have saved, $15 million, in letting go of Jaden Springer. So now that they have 13 players in the active roster, you have to have 14, but you don't have to fill that 15th spot until they head in the NBA playoffs. So, my question to you guys now is, what should Brad Stevens do by the NBA trade deadline? Should he make another move? Should he trade for a player in exchange for a pick? Should he trade Xavier Tillman to fill up some of those roster spots that could become open? Go on ahead, let me know in the comment section down below what you want Stevens to do next after this Springer move. I think ultimately one of those roster spots is going to go to Drew Peterson, the two-way player that did the same thing with Neemias Queta last year in the last week of April in the regular season, so they can keep that 15th and final roster spot open all the way up to the NBA playoffs. I think Drew Peterson has become a pretty reliable wing off the bench for Boston while you're dealing with a Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown rest. So Peterson obviously not going to move the needle for Boston, but could be a good attribute to them in the postseason. But will Boston move off Tillman is the question I want to know. There's no secret that his production has dipped this year. He's not playing nearly half as many minutes as he was last year. He's not putting up the same statistics. He's shooting 25% from the field right now, and he's still costing the Celtics a vet minimum of $2 million. However, they did extend, or re-sign, I should say, Tillman in the offseason. So does that mean Brad Stevens has a plan for the 26-year-old, or could this be another move to possibly still bulk up their roster? Final question for you guys here. Keep or trade Xavier Tillman? Is he the next domino to fall? Type T for trade, type K for keep. And as always, if you guys want us to go live for the trade deadline tomorrow, go on ahead, hit that sub button for me. We need 25 new subscribers on this video so we can go live tomorrow.